Mhm.
All I got to say is that better have been some good stew.
Right. That's right. Yeah, and I actually did a show on this several months back. One of our patrons had asked a question about the interactions with Jacob, Abraham, Ishmael, Isaac, and all this, and I tried to give a breakdown of as far as the use of the terminology of the birthright and the firstborn and the blessing and the differentiations between what that looked like versus the passing on of the priesthood versus passing on gifts of inheritance, physical property and gifts. So this is where the birthright or the firstborn usually pertain to the priesthood. This is why the prophecy was to Rebecca, the elder will serve the younger, because the one being served was usually the high priest of the family. He became that eldership of the family and also attained the priest position, because the priest was a position of rulership.
And that kind of makes sense as to why, we talk about Esau, doing evil amongst the Lord of God, loved Jacob, he hated Esau. If he was giving up his priesthood for just a bowl of lentil soup, that shows he really didn't care about it. He's like, I don't care about this stupid thing. Like, I just give you some soup here, I'm hungry. Like,
and
that really goes to his heart.
Absolutely. Yeah. This is why the parallel account in Jubilees is so important for this story, because it explains that Abraham, when he was still alive, he noticed that Esau was not one that was prone to do the ways of Yahweh, and that Jacob was.
Yep.
That Jacob was actually the one who had the heart to learn the ways of Yahweh and practice them, even as a young man. Esau was just learning the ways of war, going out hunting. He was just out there trying to be a manly man, and he wasn't really. Whereas Jacob had actually learned writing and was showing that he had a propensity to learn the commandments. Which, if you're going to be a priest, it's important you have to know writing, because a part of your job was to be a scribe, so you could copy the scrolls and pass them on. So, yeah.
But Moses hasn't been born yet. There's nothing written.
Right. And people are in the live chat asking, it's going to be in Jubilees 19 through 21. So go read those 3 chapters, and they'll give you a full breakdown of this interaction of time where Abraham actually pulls Rebecca aside and tells her, yeah, Jacob is the one that's going to take over my seed on the earth, not Esau. And he's saying this because it says he saw that Isaac had favored Esau, but that wasn't correct, because Esau wasn't showing the propensity to take over the priesthood. So this is why he pulls Rebecca aside and says, make sure Jacob gets the priesthood. Then we get this crazy story next week, right? About Jacob's, Jacob going in before Isaac and stealing the blessing. Well, yeah, there's a reason for that. So, and there's a reason why Isaac, as the patriarch of this house, of the family, just didn't say, once he figured out that he was tricked, just didn't say, oh no, that doesn't apply, give it to Esau. He let Jacob remain having it because he knew. He just,
that's probably what should have happened.
Yeah, sometimes men just need their wives to help them a little bit with certain things that they're not noticing. My lovely wife is great at that. Yeah,
mine too.
I'll be looking for the help someday.
Yeah, it'll come your way. It'll come your way in the future. Let me show you guys something real quick. We go through part of this. There's something I wanted to point out. That's we got many of the sons of Keturah. So we have 6 more sons born to Keturah, and there's a lot of grandsons that are born out of that. And at the bottom here in verse 5, right before Abraham dies, in the book of Jubilees, it also says the same thing, that he gave his gifts to the sons of his concubines. So that means if Hagar and Keturah are considered concubines because they're second and third wives, then their sons, these 6 sons and their grandsons, got gifts of inheritance from Abraham before he died, and so did Ishmael, and of course Isaac got the majority of everything. Right? Yeah, he got the bigger portion, but the other guys did get gifts. Someone brought this up one time because they're like, "Oh, Abraham disobeyed Torah because he didn't give anything to the other children." I'm like, no, it says it right here in Jubilees. In fact, he actually calls them, before he gives them these gifts in Jubilees, it says he teaches them, or he joins them, he encourages them to keep the commandments, and kind of reminds them of the Torah, and I think that's fascinating.
If you want this to multiply, this is a behavior you should abide in. This is how I got it. This is how you can get more.
Exactly. A lot of babies in that family.
Yeah, it reminds me of like some churches or a John 3:16 mission that does the free food. and they make you listen to the sermon before you get the free food.
Yeah.
You know, he's like, he calls all the grandchildren for the dispersion of the will. And he's like, now, before I hand out all this stuff and you guys just run away, let me tell you, let me go ahead and preach at you real quick about what you need to be doing. Keep the commandments of the Lord.
Oh, man.
Seriously, Dad?
Yeah. So, and then of course we get another little instance in here where he's buried in that same cave that he bought. A lot of people are going to be buried in this cave. Do you guys think that his wife at the time, Keturah, do you guys think that she got a little salty when he was like, yeah, I'm gonna go be buried next to Sarah?
I'm sure there's a lot of things that happened with multiple spouses together and all that I don't want to. That wasn't fun for a bit, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it got bad when I had that baby making contest in the family.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah? I'll call you, and I got another one. I'll raise you.
Yeah, you talking about Rachel and Leah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or Sarah sending away geez, I can't think of her name off the top of my head right now.
Hagar.
Hagar, when she does become pregnant, is like Sarah's idea, and then it did happen. Oh, dang it, get her out of here.
Get out of here.
But what's interesting though, and maybe you're getting ready to go here, is that Isaac and Ishmael together come to bury Abraham. I mean, you kind of touched on that a second ago. But
it seems like, again, on verse 11, to your point, like I was mentioning last chapter, it seems like Isaac is living near where Ishmael lives at this Bir Laharoy place. And that he keeps coming from there. And it says he lives near him there in this passage. So I'm thinking that he had some constant interaction with Ishmael. I mean, he's his brother, and he's his older brother.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I know that growing up, with just traditional teaching, I thought negatively of Ishmael, but now that I've just read the text, there's nothing in there that shows that he's not someone to be respected. He wasn't probably blessed. And even God himself says, doesn't the angel of the Lord say he's going to bless him when he's with his mom Hagar alone and they think they're going to die?
Yeah.
So
and this is why I agree with you. I always heard growing up too, that Ishmael was kind of like the child, because of what it says that he lives in contention around his brothers. And I thought to myself, well, that's unfortunate, because Jubilee says that he was coming back to keep the feasts with Abraham and Isaac.
Yep.
And so sure, he may have had some contention with other people he lived around that was different family, but from what I see, his interaction with Abraham and Isaac, he's cool with them, and he's keeping the commandments. And so, and his get the promise that all of his 12 sons are going to be made into a great nation.
Yeah.
So,
and as you just said a second ago, he was keeping the commandments, right? He was coming for the feast days. So,
Sean, I got a question.
Sure.
What translation version are in your slide?
This is the Berean Study Bible.
Okay.
Yeah.
I noticed in verse 1 with all the names.
Yeah.
One of them was Shua. I think it was the last mentioned in verse 2. So I was like, oh, maybe that's the same Hebrew letters as the end of our Messiah's names, but it's actually a het at the end. So I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. So it's pretty close, like one letter off.
Well, yeah, Hebrew is really interesting how that, one little tweak can change everything. Like, we talk about that lentil stew, and it talks about how Esau is also called Edom. Well, red stew, the dirt of the earth, is considered Adamah, which means red dirt. So therefore he added on instead of Esau, he added on Edom, and then suddenly it becomes, because of the red stew, he's also nicknamed Edom, right? Which is a mixture of this word for red and Esau's name. So, I just think that that's interesting how the language works like that. Doesn't do that.
Close to Adam too.
Right. A man pulled from the dirt, from the red man pulled from the dirt. Yeah.